Hello everyone and welcome to a new video from Your Overwatch. I'm Eddie the Chump and today we're going to be covering perhaps the best Ana player in the world right now and my own personal favourite, and that's Jjonak from the NYXL and South Korea World Cup teams. Now if you remember, I made a Zen video about him breaking down exactly what it was that made him so good, and this video will follow similar lines. We'll be taking footage from his stream and breaking some of it down to try and learn how and why he does the things that he does. First things first, let's cover his playstyle, as that informs a lot of the rest of the video. I have watched many hours of Jjonak's Ana play, and there's one thing that really stands out to me. He is relentlessly aggressive, to the point where if he were any other player, some of his decisions would look very questionable. He quite often goes off on his own to create an angle where he can get his utility off, or directly duel something. This was common in his Zen play too, and to a certain extent, flanking is a tool in every hero's locker, but Jjonak takes it to insane levels. He really does, and I want to stress this, play Ana like she's a DPS in a lot of contexts, and because of his mechanics, he gets away with it far more often than you or I would. There's an old fighting game term called going dumb, and what that means is you play in an overly aggressive way, just doing stuff to see what you can get away with. If your opponent can't stop you, you'll just run over them. That feels quite apt to me when I watch Jjonak's Ana. He just does whatever he feels like and out-mechanics teams. It's like he's saying, stop me if you can, basically. Turns out, most people can't. Now, I also want to make this very clear. He's not actually being dumb. He does have rhyme and reason to his play. He's a very smart player, just greedy, in the very best way. Fredo sometimes says when we're playing matchmaking, we need to play more ignorant. We're giving the opponent too much respect, expecting them to play actual Overwatch. Jjonak gives absolutely nobody any respect, and that's why I love him. To illustrate this, I'm going to break down a clip for you from a game on Rialto. Deja vu, right? At the start, his team are pushing the cart round the corner on attack. They leave cart and he throws a bio nade to try and help his Rein and hopefully anti their tank. That doesn't happen, but the enemy Lucio gets caught out and dies. Take a mental note, the enemy tank now can't reposition themselves quickly. He then goes through the building to his left on his own looking for an angle. In front of him is the enemy Ana, who he shoots and then sleeps. He leaves her for a moment to try and shoot the Zarya, but him and his team focus the Ana down. Value, right? 2 kills, team fight done. Well, instead of doing what most players would do and face with his team on the retake at the choke, he just flanks again, hides until the Zarya bubble runs out on the Hanzo, duels him, kills him, narrowly misses a sleep on the returning enemy Rein, but lands a fat anti on that Rein, the Lucio and the Zarya. He only gets stopped by a Widow from spawn who does kill him, but by that point he has almost single-handedly denied the enemy retake while also getting big value on the first fight. I'd call this kind of play borderline disrespectful, and I love it. The second clip I'm going to break down is similar, but on defense of King's Row. Now, some context, before we join Jjonak sitting in a corner waiting for some hapless attackers, he's in this side room quite a lot beforehand. He knows it's a power position for potentially either team. So at the point in the clip where we join him, he waits for the attackers to wander in, as the Zen and the Widow do, and he just pounces them with damage and anti-nade. The Zen dies, but the Widow gets away. He then turns to the frontline fight, which he's now on the wrong side of, nanos his Rein with what seems like vague disinterest, and then continues his flank into the enemy backline. He tracks down that Widow, kills her, sleeps the enemy Ana, who I imagine is not expecting her counterpart to be behind her, and is joined by his Lucio. He does get slept himself, but at this point he's done his damage and his teammates follow up to kill that Ana anyway. Jjonak will do what Jjonak wants, and if you allow him, he'll just take you apart. All from the support slot. Ask yourself, what other Ana would think, I'll leave my tank and go duel stuff? That's what needs to happen here. Common advice is for supports not to ISO themselves by dueling, because it turns out supports are not actually flanker DPS, they're supports. Jjonak laughs in the face of your rules game. Orthodoxy is for chumps. So on the one hand, it's easy to just say, oh, he's mechanically insane, so that's how he can get away with playing like this. And that is partially true, but he's also exploiting his very high actions per minute. He's always doing something, and really that is what defines a lot of the great Ana players, be it Gale or ML7 or whoever you like. Ana requires that to reach her devastating potential, and in the clips in the background for this section, you'll be seeing precisely how Jjonak reaches it. Now, his Zen was very damage greedy. He actually had pretty poor healing stats compared to other Overwatch League Zens, and his Ana is kind of the same. He's constantly shifting between healing, trying to squeeze in damage, hitting sleeps, and anti-nading where he can. How he uses anti-nade is quite interesting too. He does use it conventionally, obviously, but he also uses uses it as a dueling tool a fraction more than other Anas I've studied. This clip on Hanamura defense is a great example of everything I'm talking about. He hits both a sleep and an anti-nade in the corridor, his team press, he follows looking to get extra damage at every opportunity, and then at the end, he sees the enemy Zen and Ana in the distance. Then he throws a bio-nade and kills both of them because it lands on them with accurate follow-up shots. I imagine they thought they were quite safe so close to their own spawn, but it turns out not so much. Now there are a few other aspects of mechanics from Jjonak's game that really stand out. Firstly, he's a master of the Ana quickscope, be it either for damage or for clutch heals. In this clip from Attack Route 66, you can really see the value he's going to get out of it. After he nades his ult in Pharah and sleeps the enemy Winston, he hits a clutch quickscope heal on his Genji, which when in overtime and outnumbered is so crucial. Genji needed that because he gets hit by the enemy Brig very soon after. In the following tangle, he antis the enemy Doom and quickscopes him. His Genji finishes him off, but he did really need to hit that shot. Fights like this rest on such fine margins, and the difference between a player who's practiced this technique with Ana and someone who hasn't can be all the difference. Now getting good at that can be hard enough, but I think the most difficult skill any Ana has to learn is to get value out of sleep dart. Now Jjonak is exceptional at this too, and from watching him I've observed he has two main ways of hitting it. The first way is straight prediction, like down a lane where he thinks someone will peek. These three examples are totally nuts. Firstly on Kingswear Attack, where his duo partner Guido has just tranced out of the top left passageway, letting him know someone is coming, and he hits the sleep totally on timing. Secondly, on Blizzard World, where he knows a Tracer is coming and literally counts down her approach and flicks totally behind himself to hit her.
3, 2, 1, 데려오겠다. 헐 새끼야.
And thirdly, on Oasis, where he sees a Sombra behind his team, he nades her, watches her teleport, and aims under the stairs while she's invisible and hits her. Now, I'd like to give some advice as to how to develop that skill, but I'm struggling a little bit. The one thing I will say is that the simplest expression of that skill is what I've tried to do more, which is to try and sleep an enemy Rhine as he drops his shield to fight down a lane. It's fairly low risk, and the key is to try and learn and read the flow of an engagement and animations of your enemies. Jjonak is mapping out in his head what his opponent will likely want to do and where they will want to do it when he makes predictions like these. There is also the element of gamble, of chance, you miss all the shots you don't take and all that, but the basic skill of trying to read the play in front of you and developing your vision is actually massively important to Ana's entire kit, so it's a key lesson in getting better with her. As I said, start small and build up. The second type of sleep is raw mechanical reaction that has a bit of prediction in it because the sleep dart is a projectile after all, but also has tracking and crosshair placement as a key skill. This clip on Numbani is a great example. As the Genji gets in his face and jumps up drawing his blade, he actually tracks up in an arc as part of his flick. Now the tracking bit is rough target acquisition, putting his dot on or near the Genji. The prediction adjustment part of the shot is then easier, and he hits sleeps like these all day for fun. It's kind of a similar skill to hitting Roadhog hooks. Track the target first, then commit. It's particularly important because I think the hardest part for most people in hitting sleeps reliably is the delayed release of the dart and its travel time. The better you get at your initial tracking, the easier the prediction part will become over time as you start to read targets' movements better. Now, when looking at great players, it's quite often the case that you'll want to try and take fundamental lessons from them and then build upon those principles. But Jjonak's kind of special, as his playstyle is so unorthodox and only made possible because he is so good. But make no mistake, he knows all the rules, all the good fundamental plays, and has all the fundamental skill sets. He's just got to the point where he can now break those rules where it's appropriate. So if you want to emulate him, firstly you have to improve at those things. Raising your APM by mentally training yourself to always look for value, never resting as an Ana player, develop reliable mechanical tools like the quickscope and work on your sleep darts, and start to try and read the play in front of you. Start to try and feel when an opportunity is about to present itself. If you work on those things, you might not ever be as good as Jjonak is, but you'll certainly be a better player. And that's about it for today's video, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a rating. If you never want to miss another video of ours again, please click the bell icon next to the subscribe button on our channel to join the notification squad. You'll be in great company. And finally, please follow the Your Overwatch Twitter. It's where you can find updates about new videos and other cool stuff. I've been Eddie the Chump, and until next time.